Lauren Lev, Marketing Manager for Tech on Purpose and host of this vlog series, Who's in Your Cloud? 21 Steps to Secure, Reliable, Trusted Technology. And this is episode 15, Secure Remote Access. To see more of me and my cyber crime fighting partner, Matt Tankersley, check out our previous 14 episodes on LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, or Spotify. And if you're not already getting episodes delivered straight to your inbox, what are you waiting for? Sign up at techonpurpose.net/blog. So today's episode, Secure Remote Access. We all want the simplicity of working anywhere from any device at any time. And few would argue that the pandemic has done a lot to push this desire to a rapid reality for industries and workforces globally. I know getting productive out of the office and on the couch has been a blessing and curse for all of us, but I must say, I'm still a fan.
Love it.
So the big question on the security conscious IT practitioner mindset needs to be, how do we secure access for our growing and diverse remote workforce without the burden of complexity? Because if you're anything like me, if it ain't easy, I ain't doing it. So our cyber expert cast today are here to talk turkey about the do's, don'ts, and gotchas of secure remote access. Okay, let's meet the guys. Back on the vlog again, ladies and gentlemen, we have security architect and author, Jim Bowers from TBI. Jim, you're famous now.
Nice. I don't know. I probably won't say the magazine because I don't think many people crochet. I do extreme crocheting, and it's very interesting. But no, I'm really excited to be here. Lauren, I've said it 100 times. I'm a big fan of the top 21. I think it really sets the bar for organizations to do the best they can to not protect themselves, but I'm a big fan of the detection piece, and there's necessary layers within it. But glad to be here. Looking forward to working with Eric and talking with Eric and Andrew. I got a nice little thing I'm going to say about Cisco in a little bit, and I'll wait till that. But thanks. Love being here. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. Okay, we have Andrew Griffin from Cisco and Frank DePrisco from ConnectWise back again. Thanks for coming back, you guys.
Thank you.
It's been a while since we've had both of you.
It has. Yeah, I feel like we were just all meeting up, talking about this 21 series, and here we are on episode 15 already.
I know, halfway through. And introducing one of our own, we have Tech on Purpose's senior IT engineer, Eric Cole, ladies and gentlemen.
Hi, everybody. Nice to be here.
Awesome. And then rounding out our top team is Tech on Purpose's founder and CEO, Matt Tankersley.
Welcome back, everyone.
Awesome, guys. All right, Matt, you want to start us off?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Let's plant a few seeds and we'll just get this conversation moving ahead. So last week we talked about wireless security, right? And that's a core component of our remote workforce's journey to connect and conduct business as usual. But once we're online, where are we headed, right? And that's where secure remote access comes in a little bit. Now, if you've been in a remote workforce role, you probably recall the dreaded VPN that's always required to connect back to the office. And let me tell you, that's always a leading category of support tickets for our IT teams like Eric up there, right? So, but now, with so much of our systems and data moving to the cloud, it seems remote is the way we all work anyway, whether we're in the office, if you think about it, or out and about or at home. And how has this cloud migration impacted remote access? And Frank's going to bring up an interesting thing I think we're going to talk about. It's not just about remote access for the workforce, but how do we support that workforce and how do we do that securely, right? Looking forward to hearing about that, Frank. And without question, we've seen a need for the VPN on end user devices. Frankly, from what I can tell, it's dropped drastically as the need to connect to the office has diminished as we're working in the cloud and users are simply utilizing secure SSL connectivity to the cloud to get things done, right? Typically, the need for VPN or not is driven by the size and type of company you work for, right? Because larger companies are still maintaining servers or application infrastructure that's in the office or even in their own private cloud, and they may still require you to have a VPN. But we're also seeing a significant push toward DaaS, right? Desktop as a service in the cloud, which introduces new and exciting ways to expand this connect from anywhere, any device strategy while simultaneously decreasing cyber risk, as no data ever resides on our remote devices. It's simply a screen share from our cloud computer to whatever device we're on. And now we don't care if that device gets broken or stolen, right? Because it never had the data on in the first place. But I'm confident our Cybercast will expand greatly on these and other topics related to secure remote access in our session today. So Lauren, how about we meet our episode cast and get the conversation moving?
Okay, so if you've been following along on this series, a lot of familiar faces here, but for those of us who are joining for the first time, Jim, our VIP cast member, I know you've done this a lot, but tell us about your background and what you do for TBI besides gracing the covers of magazines.
I'm really lucky. It's a cool point. I think when any of us get to work in this great, cool field of security, but at TBI, I'm the security architect. So my main goal is to work with our partners and really build out a vendor portfolio that takes a holistic point of view to enable our partners to really get in probably the hottest space that touches every aspect of an organization. So it's my chance to enable these partners to make this epic, shift in how they've done business in a market that's getting ready to explode. And that's really exciting. And I get to work with great guys like you. So I'm like a kid in a candy store. So I'm really lucky to be in a space I love and talk about it. So, and work with great people. So thank you again for the invite.
All right, Andrew, you're up next.
Yeah, so pleasure to be on here, and always, it's a joy to come back to, talk to everyone here. Security and all these topics that are top of mind are a passion for all of us, and I think you can tell, from just the way we talk about it. But if you don't know, my name is Andrew Griffin. I'm a technical solution specialist. I work over at Cisco. I cover a wide portfolio of cloud security products that range from DNS layer security, full web proxy, secure end device, two-factor authentication. I mean, you name it. I'm sure it's in there somewhere. And it's just awesome to be back and to just really deep dive into this, secure remote workforce. Because especially, with the macro environment going on, this hybrid workforce, it's not going anywhere.
Okay, Frank, you're up next.
Hi, Lauren. Hey, Matt. Thanks for having me back again. So my role has kind of changed since the last time I was here. I was previously director of the ConnectWise IT Nation secure team. We were created to help educate and train our partners on better cybersecurity in the MSP space. As of the end of the month, I'm going to be transitioning over to work for the SVP of Cybersecurity Products as the director of our cybersecurity task force.
Wow.
So thank you. I'll be tasked with creating a certification program for MSPs like you to assess yourself against the advanced level of our MSP Plus framework that we created. So we'll be doing an audited certification, giving you a logo check mark that you can put on your website and promote as being a certified ConnectWise partner. We're creating new assessments and identify around CMMC this year and 800-171. Some of the big topics out there that a lot of MSPs and their customers are interested in. Also creating a third-party vendor management program that our partners can use us to help them manage, or they can implement themselves. We'll provide the materials and the assessments. I also work for our business readiness program for partners in our cybersecurity partner program, and advise on our cybersecurity advisory council. And I'll talk more about that later and what they do for our community.
Sure. You don't have enough hats there.
Yeah.
I know. This all just happened yesterday.
I would gladly
Wow,
volunteer.
congratulations.
No, wow, you just found out. That's awesome.
Yeah, just yesterday.
That's
I will
awesome.
gladly volunteer for your third-party risk vendor management tool because that's something we're using quite a bit these days.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
Cool.
get you started when we get ready.
Good. Good things, Frank. All right.
I got
Eric.
$50 that Tank will be the outlier. I got this saying $50.
It's a safe bet right there.
Yeah, I'll have to see. All right, Eric. So people might know a lot about Top, but we don't know anything about you. So introduce yourself and tell everybody what you do for us.
Hi, I'm Eric. I'm the IT engineer. A lot of people ask me, hey, what do you do? I typically do the stuff that you can't Google. Do the virtualization for Top and anything I can do to help out anybody else. I'm typically the guy that tries to figure out the hard problems, so to speak. So glad to be here. Glad to be a part of this. And security is always a number one for us at Top, so it's always an interest of mine and personally, as well as remote working. So I'm glad to be here.
I can attest the fact that he is like the wizard behind the curtain of Oz, because if I Google it and I can't figure it out, I'm like, Eric, I have this Mac thing. Can you help me? He's like, oh God, it's her again. Sure, let me help you. So he's always on deck. He's
I
always
don't
so
know. I
nice.
don't know if everybody on this call and certainly our viewers has heard that we have a number of soapboxes around our company, and our favorite one that we always lead with is that we love what we do. We love who we do it with, and we love who we do it for. And obviously, I got the sincere privilege of working with Lauren and Eric daily, and this is a big reason. When we start with that mentality, we end up with wonderful folks on our team like this, and then partners like you. Remember, who we work with is not just about our staff and our W-2 and 1099s, but our partners. And
Right.
so grateful for all of you guys. Eric, glad you're here, man.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. Now that we are all introduced and ready to go, Jim, get us started on remote access security. First, talk about what it is, and then why is it a hot topic?
What is secure remote access? Actually, probably one, if you look at TechOnPurpose's top 21, they're all in the portive. But I would say in the direction we're going, this is bubbled up in a very critical component, right? And it's simply for the fact that it's giving the employee the ability to access company assets or resources or data in a secure fashion, no matter where they are, right? Whether they're working at a Starbucks, that's why don't really like saying work from home, work from anywhere, right? And provide that connectivity or trusted, secure connectivity back into their infrastructure to access applications that they need to utilize for their business. So that's really the remote access portion. Now, why is it so critical? Great question. I think we all have had the big RSA token. They realize, oh crap, what happens if you lose that? We've all gone through those stages and the iterations of people working from home. But there was a very small percentage, right, that worked from home. And we just flipped that paradigm shift. And when you do that, it causes a lot of problems. And that's one big issue. But now let's think what has to follow that. It's the applications are moving to cloud, right? So maybe I rolled out VPN, but now taking it to a central point in my infrastructure is not the most optimal way, right? So now they're dealing with that piece. So the secure remote access, simply the fact that we're not going to go back to pre-pandemic levels, I think is really bubbled up and become extremely, extremely critical. And simply the fact we're the weakest link, right? Mm-hmm. We're not in an office environment. We're relaxed at home. I may not know not to click the kitty, but it's really looking good. And then my kid runs in and bumps me, right? So being able to control that person and how they access my resources, no matter where they are, is very critical.
Good intro. Let's see, Frank, what do you have to add?
So just like Matt said, it's not just about VPN anymore. It's more specific than any technology. It should also there should be a lot of security strategies and policies and processes that companies follow to ensure remote access is secure. It starts with using strong passwords. I'm going to talk more about brute force compromise of credentials a little bit later. But having strong passwords and two-factor authentication and keeping your software up to date are critical to the remote access tools and capabilities that we have. But it should go further. We should be using firewalls, whitelisting IPs that connect to our networks, geo-blocking if possible on your firewall, all help limit the possibility of any remote access that's not needed. One of the big things that we talked about at a meeting this week is even the simplest things like having, set up operating hours for only access to your environment during normal operating hours or normal business procedures should be established. It's simple things like that people forget to do that cause a lot of remote access compromise. And it's interesting, I just read a statistic, I think it was today, that in 2011, I believe 19% of the workforce was remote, and today it's about 63%. So just like Jim said, the number of remote workforce has really taken off, and we really have to make sure we lock down our secure remote access into our environments.
Yeah, Lauren, what I thought of when you were saying that, Frank, was that we've been talking so far about how do we enable that workforce to do what they do from anywhere. And obviously the whole point of our cyber series is having the bad guys that are trying to do the same thing, but it really comes ahead when you think about it. If we're taking extra measures to enable people to work remotely, we have to take extra measures to keep the people out that don't need to be working remotely. That's something I thought of when you were saying that. All right.
Yeah.
I want to hop in there and say, because if you look at the compounding effect of this, what really is the driver behind this is data. We generate more data. There's more applications to consume that data. And now we're dealing with people consuming that data from places that we typically were not consuming it from, right? And that's really why this is so critical, this secure remote access, and looking at it differently. Just because I have a secure connection, I'm not going to give you the keys to my kingdom. And that's a whole nother thing. I'm going to pass it off to Umbrella Man, Rihanna, Umbrella. But really, Umbrella's not just an umbrella. It's a sassy umbrella now. And I'll let you talk about how your umbrella's sassy.
That was a great transition there. Yeah, with the umbrella. Because when we're talking about secure remote workforce, I mean, it's such a broad but interesting topic. I mean, we're talking about from the normal two-factor authentication and make sure that if the end user has a device, we have to make sure who they actually are to go ahead and authenticate to give them the right privileges. And we're all working towards this least privilege, right, to make sure that someone doesn't have too much access, right, accidentally for compromises. Then when we're talking about remote workforce, these are somewhat unmanaged devices, but also particularly managed devices where they're not sitting behind an on-premise firewall. And they don't have those on-premise kind of security. So how do you make sure that you're providing the same level of security that someone would come into the office at home, at Starbucks, at remote, regardless if they're on VPN, regardless if they're off VPN, doesn't matter the geolocation, and finding a level and a balance of security without causing, kind of end user disruption or, kind of business impact of, the sacrifice of what you need to do both. Especially when we're talking about, moving to the cloud with CASB applications, and they just, kind of go DIA, like direct internet access to these public hosted applications. I mean, it's kind of a point-to-point connection, right? How do you really provide security to something that's hosted publicly, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we're talking about all these avenues, it's just growing wider and wider. And we really need to make sure that, in these changes, when we are worrying and making all these network devices, network changes, all these security products, that not only are we protecting our remote workers, but we're also keeping our on-premise workers in the same mindset, right? So not, sacrificing or moving focus to one or the other. And it's just, I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's why, at least from the Cisco side, I mean, you have to, in a SASE portfolio to really kind of cover every avenue that you're introducing, because there's new risk in every avenue, right, that you introduce in your network. I mean, you're talking about Duo for two-factor authentication. You talk about Umbrella for full web proxy that now has integrations to kind of cover cloud applications with DLP, Cloud Lock, right? Even scanning for data at rest, right? So, okay, you have this data hosted in a public cloud, and maybe someone gets in there and embeds malware, and then users download it, boom, right? Stuff you don't really think about in that sense. And just, using on-premise firewalls, cloud-delivered firewalls, VPN. There's just so many avenues and so many products that you have to use because you're introducing all these new variables of avenues to get to this kind of traffic and these kind of new environments. So it's a very interesting, kind of ideology that we're talking about here.
Go ahead, Jim.
I mean, think about all that's happening, and let's think about one. I think another key piece we look over. Data traditionally traversed across wires, physical wires, right? It's pretty hard for a threat actor to get. Now, I got ultra capacity. I got a gig to my phone. So the data is moving from a harder wired connection where I got to plug into that damn port to, it's running across the air. I got people moving out. I got how they access applications moving. It is such a rich environment, and encrypting that connection is more and more critical because more traffic is going to move from wired connection to wireless, and more opportunity for me to sit out there with a Wi-Fi pineapple and crack into every single one of them. I know Andrew knows what those are. They're pretty fun to play with.
Absolutely.
But all of these things.
Yeah, I was talking to a customer, and they actually had someone, not them, but they had a competitor who one of their employees was at Starbucks, ironically, right, and using their public Wi-Fi, and someone mimicked for a copy, the SSID is a public Wi-Fi, so there's two of them. And so they chose the one that he was mimicking, and he was actually able to go ahead and sniff all of that traffic. So having this data encrypted while data is in transit, to go across the internet, I mean, it's just becoming so, so essential, right? Because stuff like that, I mean, we're humans, even if we're trained, we may not recognize it, overlook it, right? You just have to prepare for, quote unquote, the unknowns. And I mean, how do you even prepare for that, right?
So, Lauren, I think that we're going to transition to letting folks talk about some of the solutions that they provide to enable secure remote access. And if you haven't followed, if you've been following along, right, and you're seeing all these episodes, you realize really quickly it's impossible to focus on one topic without talking about others, right? It's just impossible, which is why we've created the Top Cyber 21 to simplify and prioritize the conversation a little bit. And, to close out this segment on what and why, right? And now we're going to talk about the how of recommendations and stuff. Another thing that dawned on me while you guys were talking, right? On the why front, right? We've been talking about the simplicity of just getting people connected and doing that securely and encrypting that data and so forth. And one of the reasons why we've got to be thinking about it proactively, right, is we've bounced around it here, we bounced around in other conversations, but now that you've enabled that remote workforce to connect to your office where all your critical systems and data are, you may be doing a wonderful job of securing endpoints and all those kinds of things. But now that device is connected on that home network where the kid is on the Xbox and they did click on the kitty gym, and that device, that IoT device or that other kid's laptop or tablet device that's infected is now talking to on the same network as your remote workforce device, which is connected to your critical infrastructure at your office or your cloud, right? And so when we're talking about securing your remote workforces and the need for remote secure access, there's so many layers and so many facets to this thing. And it's hard to focus, right, Lauren? But the reasons need to be clear. If you're going to allow people to have remote access, you got to do it securely, and you got to think about all these things. You really do, and how you choose to do it. And I'll say this one last time and hush up so everybody else can do it. We're seeing this significant shift, as I mentioned earlier, to the DAS adoption. Because in the DAS adoption, what I just described wouldn't be an issue, because the only thing that's moving from that end user device is a screen. That's not data packets. That's just video. That's just audio and video, maybe audio, right? Depending on the situation. So let me hush up and let's keep going. And Lauren, why don't you push us around the room on talking about each of our cast members' best practices and how they approach this.
So before we move on to solutions,
it sounds like you're about ready to get.
It's because the gerbils get running on late Friday. They're extra busy. I just wanted to play off of what you said. I think the reality of it is all of this stuff will go away once we are able to figure out how to encrypt data everywhere efficiently. Because if you take the value of something away, they're not going to come after it. So if they can't do anything with it, I don't care how you connect to it. I don't care if you can see it. You can't do crap with it, right? So that's why I think at the end of the day, that's the next iteration. I'm seeing these, these blockchains, distributed arrays. Good luck at getting my data. So if I make it not valuable, they're not going to try to steal it.
Right.
So I'll stop there.
Yeah. Well, Jim actually brings up a good point. We have an episode on data encryption. So if you haven't seen it, it's episode 11. Go find it, watch it. Before we move on to talk solutions, Eric, do you have anything that you want to add?
No, the only thing I was going to say is, the user side, it's got to be simplistic for the user. If it's not simplistic for the user, they're not going to use it. I get these calls from users all the time that are just fumbling through using the VPN, using this or that or the other thing. And a lot of solutions made it nice and easy for everybody. I mean, the VMware's got some nice things. Microsoft has tried to do the same thing, but Citrix as well. Some other people have some other things, other solutions as well. But I think it has to be simplistic for the user. If it's not simplistic for the user and the user can't understand it, they're not going to use it. I wouldn't use it if I didn't understand how to use it. A lot of technology still scares people if they don't understand it. So if it's nice and simple and easy to use, people will use it. And that's the big thing.
Exactly.
We have to have our users use it, because it's number one place of breach is the user, right? Is the endpoint, right? The end user. So we've got to protect them as much as we can. And it's got to be nice and simple so that they can follow the policies and use it in a secure manner. So that's all I was.
As your end user, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, Eric uses a product we use from ConnectWise all day, every day for remote support, which above all things is simple.
Mhm.
And I love that tool. It really empowers us to support our clients. And I think Frank's going to talk a little bit more about that. Frank, I don't know if you've ever heard us say this. We actually use that tool as a remote access tool for clients as well.
Yeah.
So we'll enable them to have a secure identity on our control platform, have a session group that only goes to their machine or their machines. And again, we're back into that simplifying the connectivity sort of thing. So, all right, Lauren, you got to leave. We'll stop interrupting you.
Yeah, no, you're fine. Eric, we just did this last week or the week before.
Right.
You did it for me. All right. So with that, let's have Frank talk about you guys' solutions.
Yeah, so I was going to talk about our control product, which companies like TechOnPurpose use, and now I guess they're enabling their customers to use as well. And some of the security that we've built into that, because it's very important that that product itself be secure. So we have, and that the people connecting to help people do support only have access to what they need to do and can't have run of the mill once they connect to the customer site. So we've built in role-based security that lets the administrators create different roles with, user permissions that are needed for least privilege access, and what we call JEA, just enough access, to do what they need to be doing. It's kind of a new buzzword that we're throwing around these days and building into the products. It also logs everything that's done so that there's an audit trail if you need to audit what somebody did to a particular to a computer. It monitors who logs in, it has timestamps, and it can actually track the session activities down to which scripts were executed, what commands were run, the tools that were used, and the files that were even transferred. So it's a way to really audit what's being done if something goes wrong. It's also it's there because if somebody were to get into your environment, use your control instance, then to get to all of your customers, there's an audit log there. The other thing that's important is technicians have to request consent from the host that they're connecting to. So somebody at your customer site would have to actually give you consent to do something on their machine. Now you can do it in the background without interrupting them, but you've still got a consent-based piece to make sure that the customer knows that you're connecting and you're going to do something. The other day, I needed to install some software on my laptop for a presentation at a hotel, and I couldn't do it. So I call our IT department, they connect in, I can see everything they're doing in a window, they install the software, I'm good to go. So we've locked down our access, so we don't have admin, we can't install software. So we need somebody on our support team to dial in and to give us access. And it doesn't leave a footprint. Once the session is done, everything is erased. So you don't have to, there's no software that needs to be installed. There's no client that has to be left on the machine. That way that's not there once they're disconnected for other people to potentially connect to. So once the session ends, then that token is erased. And then the last thing is it has inactivity timeouts built into it. So if the session's sitting idle for a certain amount of time, configurable by you, that session will disconnect and things like that. So we've spent a lot of time making that remote control product secure, both for you and for your customers.
Andrew, let's talk Cisco.
Yeah. So, oh gosh, where do I start? So I guess we'll start at the very end user level, right? So, when we're talking about two-factor authentication for people that have access to these remote devices, I think that's always the first step, right? Is you have to actually prove who you are. And this big focus of where we're really going to is passwordless authentication, right? The biggest thing is these passwords. We all remember them. We forget them. They're changing to 12 characters, with special characters, to 16 characters minimum now, and just eliminating all of that and really having to use other forms of methods such as biometrics or other areas. I mean, that's kind of what it's going to do to actually prove that I am Andrew and I am trying to actually log in from Andrew in Andrew's location and not from Indonesia or another country, China or something, 3 o'clock in the morning, right? And not only along with that, taking it the next step further of also I am authenticating, this is what I can't do, this is what I can do, giving me alerts if, okay, hey, this user hasn't logged in 7 days and now they've logged in, is that okay, right? Because there's a big thing of a lot of customers using contractors, which is totally normal, and they give them access. And then once the contractors end, that access is still there. And I think we saw the detrimental value of, recently from security events that somewhat led to that. So then, taking it to the end device level, we're talking about secure endpoint. The nice thing about secure endpoint is that not only is it an antivirus software where it does go ahead and quarantine and protect these end devices, but it's also an EDR and XDR solution. And what I mean by that is not only does it show you that, okay, yes, you had this Trojan horse try to execute, you had this file come in, it didn't execute, it moves laterally, and then it tried to execute and it was quarantined, but it shows how it happened all the way from the start. That, hey, okay, this was embedded in an Excel file, this Excel file was downloaded, and then went ahead and tried to reach out to a domain. That domain went ahead and established the backdoor access, and now I have either malicious actor, someone who actually went through that backdoor access onto my end device, or now it's just installing and spreading throughout my environment. Taking it to the next level, I guess I would say that is where Umbrella comes into play. So of course, DNS layer security, IP layer security, HTTP, HTTPS. I mean, we all know that things we shouldn't go. I mean, if I, fat finger Google, okay, it'll block me, right? We know it's a malicious site. But what if I go to a domain? What if I go to a URL and then I try to download something from there? It'll block it proactively. The big benefit is that it stops the connection before it's made. It doesn't allow me to download something and then go ahead and quarantine it and remove it. It stops it from downloading. So there's a lot of proactiveness in that way. And then, utilizing a cloud delivered firewall, which filters at layers 3, 4, and 7. I know, especially with firewalls, the lead times with the chip shortage right now is crazy. This is all software that is readily available to you, 100% scalable, available. I mean, goodness, there's so many avenues to it. DLP, data loss prevention, making sure that private sensitive data stays sensitive and private to where it can filter keywords or file names to make sure that, if a document contains the keywords of internal only, that should never be uploaded to a public cloud application, right? To make sure that we contain that information internally. And then of course the VPN, again, with the split tunnel and DIA, making sure that data is encrypted no matter what, whether it's actually going down the VPN tunnel or going DIA in some form or another. There's so many avenues. And the nice part about this too is, yes, of course, I'm talking all Cisco. And yes, of course, this is 3 or 4 products that you can use to be fully protected from a SASE architecture, but also being vendor agnostic. We understand that not everyone's going to use all Cisco products, and these need to be used interchangeably. And you can with any of these products, right? Because you don't want to force someone to just use your products to gain the security that they're looking for, right? Because everyone has their own, flavors and favoritism, which completely understand. Of course, I'm biased, right? Cisco, products, someone push Cisco products, but, having that peace of mind and making that security available is great. And then also having very easy to use GUI to get this information for you to look at a report to see what's going on and not filling the page with just a bunch of logs or mumbo jumbo that you don't necessarily want to see. Readily available to you by a few clicks of a button or even emailed to be scheduled to you to be sent as a report. I mean, all of these things, it's just such a benefit just to cover you again from a whole holistic SASE architecture layering approach.
Eric, before we move on to Jim, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say, I just wanted to talk about desktop as a service for a moment as a possible solution for remote working with in a secure manner and why it's secure. We keep all the data in a data center and we don't actually remove it from the data center so that no one can actually grab that data, right? So we keep it in the data center. We go to the data center, we manipulate it there, and then we go home, so to speak. So it's desktop as a service, I was going to say, is one of the many ways we can combat the remote working security issue that most of us have today.
Oh, that's good. I mean, that's why we've talked about it multiple times. It solves so many problems. What's obvious to me as we hand it off to Jim, right, to sort of wrap us up before any final words, get the TBI perspective and the security expert perspective, is that, Lauren, it seems the further we go down the top cyber 21 stack, it's impossible not to talk about everything that came before.
Right. Yeah.
It's obvious that this is a layered approach. If you want to achieve that journey that we talk about of secure, reliable, trusted technology, there's no silver bullet. It's multiple steps, and a light bulb moment for me. You guys are probably already there, but I say, okay, we're going to focus on one topic. Well, it's impossible at this point. I mean, the further we go down, you got to talk about everything that came before it. So, secure remote access. We use it all day, every day. Hopefully, it's secure. And Jim, you've worked with all the vendors, I think, that are here. You've certainly worked with us, and I know that you're really smart and really gifted at how you talk to us as partners about how to do these kinds of things. And so, what say you on the topic of approaching solutions and best practices on this topic?
That's a great question, and yes, you got some great vendors. Andrew, I'm so saying this as a joke because I was a Cisco person, but I went into recovery and I realized where I was. No, I'm so playing. Cisco is very good as the layer. They were one of the first people to look at security from a central perspective, right? And I think when we look at security, and I hope this will drill home. There's one thing out of everything we talk about, all this new technology. Next year is going to be something different because the medium changes, technology changes. But at the end of the day, what has not changed? It's what these thieves are after. It's the data. Mm-hmm. That data may have been sitting in a safe. It may not have been digitized. Hell, I used to get $1 million or whatever for a physical art painting. Now there's fictional NFTs. So the medium changes, right, on how you digest it, how you access it. But if we always look at it from a data perspective, you look how drastically millennials are digesting information compared to us, Tank, for the love of Pete. And as that changes, everything else falls around it. So this is a very critical component, but that may change, right? And what I think we need to keep in the back of our mind is don't overcomplicate it. Think about security in 3 ways. It's where your data is, who's accessing that data, and where they're accessing it from. Keep that fundamental piece. Everything else may shift around it, but at the end of the day, they do the same thing. And it's going to be a constant cat and mouse game. So keep that central focus. Everything else will fall in line. And it's great to have these series to educate people, to work with great partners. You bring such a good format for everybody. I mean, Frank said some critical components in there on pieces that the neat thing about this, we all look at it from a different angle. It's almost like we're looking at where could this fail? You bring a great cast. Everything everybody said here is equal in that defense in depth. And that's what's so cool about this format. So appreciate the opportunity.
As we focus on the solutions for secure remote access, we've talked multiple times about the value of desktop as a service. Whether you're getting that through TechOnPurpose or getting it somewhere else, you want to explore that. If you've got a remote workforce and you're dealing with concerns about kids at home getting viruses and getting to your computers and getting to your network, DAS would solve that problem, right? If you want a really quick solution that doesn't involve having to have multiple different solutions for each device, and you want it simple and you just want to click and log in, products like Control from ConnectWise that you can get through TechOnPurpose and other ConnectWise clients, great product to go with, right? Cisco has long been in the business of enabling secure remote access through VPN technology, and now a more holistic approach to the security stack as a whole. As Andrew well stated, as we all did, remote access isn't just one thing; it's a whole bunch of things. And security Cisco takes a really complex, simplified approach to covering the whole. So we've got solution sets out in the marketplace. Do not be going to work every day with your staff, putting you and your company and your clients' data and your customers at risk because you don't understand what we're talking about. Just give us a call. We'll help you figure this out. We'll help make sure that your people are secure, that your data is secure. And as Jim said, regardless of where they're at, regardless of how they're getting there, and regardless of where that data is, security needs to be first and foremost. So that's my final sense. Lauren, let's close it out and go around the room.
Perfect. Okay, Frank, any last thoughts?
Yeah, maybe this is more for you, Matt, and Lauren, and Eric. One of the focuses we have, one of our goals this year at ConnectWise is to make our products more secure. And last year we wrote comprehensive implementation guides for control, manage, and automate, using STIGs from the Department of Defense on how to lock down even the servers as you're installing the software on. And we met this week with our Cybersecurity Advisory Council, who's made up of strong, secure MSPs that are our partners, for a week, and put together what we're calling best practices guides for implementing these products. And we're going to have the first of those put together and announced at our IT Nation Secure Conference in June. So we're spending a lot of time, especially my team, as we've come over to ConnectWise 3 years ago, into making our products more secure so that our partners and your customers who use them have less to worry about. So just wanted to let you know that.
Love it. And we're grateful for that. You guys have always been great leaders in enabling us to be smarter and deliver better service. And Eric, I saw your eyes light up when he said IT Nation in June. So I got a feeling you'll see some Tech on Purpose t-shirts running around over there.
It's at the Gaylord Palms in Orlando, so it should be fun.
All right, Andrew, final thoughts.
I just want to say thanks again for having me on, and just final thoughts are just to keep security top of mind, and be proactive. Don't be retroactive, and be in control of your company's data. That's what this is all about.
Yeah, don't wait till you have to.
Jim, anything else to add?
I was trying to find, because as I'm getting older, I swear there's a button on your butt, because if you stand up, you forget stuff. And then when you sit back down, you remember it again. I was trying to say it. I was trying to find the, since you said I was published, I was trying to find the exact words about, how threat actors are like the weather. It's going to keep coming.
Yep.
Right. And the reality of the situation is there's nothing we're going to do about it. And we all I want businesses to understand that we all throw around all these great acronyms and make it sound really smart. I must say, I'm going to give a prop to Andrew. Dude, you got a big future in front of you. You are smart, you get it, and you deliver it very well. So keep being true to yourself, dude. You're going to do great. And we complicate it. And the reality of it is that's what they want us to do. They want us to overcomplicate it. It's a win-win-win-win-win for them. But we can all change that by great companies like you, working together, collaborating. Threat actors collaborate. We're starting to share threat intel. That's huge, right? So we can do it. It's just keep focused on the main thing, and that's that data, and everything else will fall around it. But I think that's it. Unless you found that article.
I do. I have it. I have your quote.
Okay.
Threat actors are like the weather. Regardless of your desires, they will continue. It's completely outside of anyone's control. Jim Bowers.
It's forums like this that get the creative juices. Andrew, I love working with you. I want to do some more stuff. This is such a good format, and great stuff comes out of this. So it's great. Thanks for the opportunity.
Malicious actors and all this community of hacking and doing these bad things. That's a community of people sharing bad stuff.
Right.
We've got to share the good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
There you go. You nailed it. That's where, and they leverage that. They started, when I worked at SecureWorks, they started to do that. And I think we're going to see more and more of that. But it's stuff like this that educates, it changes the tides for the SMB space to compete and get the technology they need in place. Because they're going to tell you what, guys, that's where they're going after, because they know it's an easy picking. Easy picking. We all want the elephants, but threat actors are like salespeople. Everybody tells me to stop saying that, but I love saying it. You'll go for the elephants, but 80% of your revenue is made up of the small stuff. Threat actors are the same way. But thanks for this forum, Matt. It's awesome. You guys rock.
You guys all rock, man. We're glad to have you. I think that's a episode 15 wrap. Lauren, if you want to close this out, I think Jim might have a deep fake video for you.
All right. Well, that is 15 down, 6 to go on our journey of 21 steps to secure, reliable, trusted technology. So check out this episode and all of our episodes on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and Spotify, or get them delivered straight to your inbox by signing up at techonpurpose.net/blog. To start a free trial from ConnectWise or Cisco, send an email to freetrial@who'sinyour.cloud. And you can sign up for our free cybersecurity risk assessment at who'sinyour.cloud. Next week, we're switching gears to server backups and BCDR. While most small businesses may not have the same size IT budget as larger enterprises, the risks facing their business's data are the same. Data backup solutions come in all different flavors, like Andrew said earlier. But our cybersecurity experts next week will help you decide which solution is best for your business. So join us right back here next week. Bye. Thanks, everybody.
Adios.